As a member of Parliament, I felt it a responsibility to go beyond the empty words of reconciliation and land acknowledgements. So when I was invited to hear from the peaceful land defenders of this area, of this territory, I thought it was a responsibility that I had as a member of Parliament to hear directly from the people who are reclaiming this territory, to be able to go back into the House of Commons with a better understanding of the issues, not just that affect this community here, but I think that Indigenous people are facing across the country.
Mm-hmm. Now, question: what did you have to say to them, to the people here today?
It wasn't so much of having something to say as it was to listen, and I think what I observed here clearly was a peaceful encampment of women and elders and land defenders who are carrying out their rights as Haudenosaunee people in these territories, living their laws in a peaceful way, honoring the two-row wampum belt, understanding that we are in different canoes, and when you have governments that cross over, they're going to get the kind of resistance in the defense of these lands. These lands are irreplaceable to these communities, and we've witnessed it going back to 2006, going back to 1906 and beyond that. And I think what is clear is that the use of police as an extension of civil, land claims or land rights is perpetrating and continuing to perpetrate violence against Indigenous people. Rubber bullets, any type of violence that is used is not going to come to an agreement. We've seen it in Wet'suwet'en, we're seeing it here today. We're on the eve of 25 years in Ipperwash. These are not new lessons to learn. So I would like to see that these injunctions stop targeting peaceful protesters, peaceful land defenders who are just carrying out their rights as Haudenosaunee people.
What did you hear from them? Like, what was the biggest, I guess, concern, or what did you hear that you thought was very important that you need to maybe bring back?
It is the understanding that the use of injunctions to criminalize and target individual people, to put onus on individuals when the treaty rights are with the collective. Nation to nation is a language that the federal government uses, but clearly is not being honored in these situations or scenarios.
So when you get back to the office, what are you going to do?
Well, my intention today is to listen. I have a series of meetings. I've been in multiple phone calls. It is to listen to all parties and all sides and come up with a clear and better understanding. Certainly there is nobody more expert in the experience than those that are living it, and that is apparent here on these territories. It's always been apparent, and so I think the two most obvious things are to de-escalate any potential for violence. I would never want to see anybody hurt over, property rights. I would never want to see the federal government use violence to displace Indigenous people. So, the removal of injunctions is the first thing. Stop criminalizing people for these claims that have been in court for 27 years, and again, going back to the two-row wampums. And secondly, that the federal government has a responsibility and a duty to come back to the table. This is the responsibility of the federal government. This is a result of the failure of this federal government and federal governments prior to act on outstanding land claims. This has been in court for 27 years. The fact that there was even processes in place that would allow a development to begin in the situation where this is already in court speaks to the level of disregard they actually have for those processes.
What do you think the current government can do?
The current government can get back to the table with land claims. The current government can act to remove the individual targeting of people through injunctions, the criminalization of Haudenosaunee people and First Nations people across these territories. Their rights are inherent rights. There are not rights that are granted nor taken away by any type of level of government. These go, through the Universal Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People. These are not just words. These are international laws and agreements. The two-row wampum is a long-standing treaty that is law, and that a a judge deciding on an injunction is the absolute inappropriate place for land claims to be settled. And I think if this government is acting in good faith and a good mind, that they will take that notice and understand that this is not going to go away, that not just Haudenosaunee, I would say from Wet'suwet'en to Mi'kmaq territories across the country up to Nunavut and Inuk and Inuit peoples, that they are going to continue to live in their traditional ways, as was accorded by the original agreements.
So if I guess NDP was in charge, would you be able to say, remove the police, and what would you do? Would that be possible? What would you do?
Well, I think that if the federal government has the ability to operate in good faith with land claims, they will deal with land claims. The police are a symptom of, not the cause. Right? The police are here under a provincial jurisdiction when the language of the federal government has always been nation to nation. So if this federal government, who used the language of reconciliation in 2015 to become elected under this Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, if he means what he says about reconciliation, if he means what he says about nation to nation, then he will treat these processes with the due respect that he would treat nation to nation negotiations.